2 years since we met.
Is it 2? I was trying to figure that out.
I think so because I was in Portugal in 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, or 22 or 23, but you were there in 23, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portugal.
So we met in Portugal at Ubamo Mau Wilao.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. Is that the one?
That was the one we met, and then we did the Rotterdam show afterwards.
At yeah, and then we did the Selva too, also, right?
So,
Selva.
yeah, we're at the contest.
Yeah. Ah.
So, really great meeting you again.
Yeah,
you are performing in not my hometown actually, but the one that is next to my hometown, Skien.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what do you know about Skien?
I know it's now pronounced Skien and not Skien.
Yeah.
I know Henrik Ibsen spent time here.
Yes.
Because there's
he was born here.
A statue.
Yeah.
Oh, he was actually born here. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a statue, and then I'm staying at the Henrik Hotel.
Right.
Because I realized it was named after him when I checked in.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know there's boats. I didn't do any research.
No. And Quisling, but you don't know who Quisling is because you weren't attached to World War II. Quisling was a guy that betrayed the Norwegians during World War II. He also is buried there somewhere.
Oh, but he's like a bad guy then.
Yeah, or a country trait.
Sure, yeah, there's not like a statue of him anymore.
No.
Or a Christian festival or something.
But he was kind of the opposite of Ibsen because Ibsen didn't spend a lot of time here. He just was born here and then he moved pretty fast away and spent time everywhere else.
Oh, really?
But Quisling wasn't born here, but he decided to get buried here.
All right, well so is that why it's kind of quiet outside?
Probably,
nervous for traders?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. That's why I like coming into new cities, because I just like walk around and discover it.
Yeah.
You know?
Where are you coming from now?
I just came from Oslo.
Yeah, but okay, so before Norway, what?
Before Norway, I was in Helsinki.
Helsinki,
doing a show, yeah. And then before the day before that, Tallinn for 2 days. Yeah, and then Vilnius, Riga, Lausanne, Luxembourg, Vienna, Lisbon.
Again.
Albuquerque, Los Angeles.
Okay. Of all the places you've been in the last period now,
yeah.
Which was your favorite show, if you should?
The one tonight.
Tonight? The one you haven't done yet?
My favorite show. Oh god, they're all just different. I'm doing something different where I have a friend from Los Angeles, a musician, super fun guy, great musician, and he was always asking about my tours because I do these tours. I just do like different cities every day, and it's kind of a little bit it's a crazy schedule. And he goes, I always wanted to do that. I want to go out there and, it'd be fun to tour with you. And I said, well, we could put together a comedy music show if you want, but if you're going to tour, you're going to do it like I tour. We're not going to stay in nice places. We're going to be riding Flixbuses. We're going to be saving money just in case, because you try to hedge against what you might make, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, cool. And so we've been doing the first few, we've done a few shows where it's just him and I for like 90 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll do a little bit, he'll do some songs, then I'll do a longer bit, and then we do a song at the end, which is fun.
Yeah.
So a lot of the shows have been fun because it's different. It's not just like, oh, you're doing 30 minutes or an hour or whatever. It's just like, it's kind of a musical, and then it just becomes a jam afterwards.
Yeah.
He just plays guitar, everybody stays around, they sing, they drink, it's been fun. So those shows have been fun. We did one in Lausanne that just turned into an hour-long sing-along. When people got up on stage.
You sung too?
I know I'm too tired by that point.
Because I understand that you're a big Taylor Swift fan.
I love Taylor Swift.
Was this your chance to be Taylor Swift fan?
I could never. I could never be. I can't imagine. I mean, that's like trying to paint the Mona Lisa. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're not going to do it. No. No, you know what? It's his bit, and I like when people go up there and sing, and I let them have their spotlight. Like, I don't need to, I've done my bit. I've done my show. Yeah. I don't need to be like, look at me more. Yeah, so some of those shows have been fun, because they just are it's like anything goes. Like, you really don't know, and it's just like a fun energy, Yeah, all the shows. Helsinki was fun. It was big. It was like 160 people in this big room, and gosh, they were so much fun. It's one of those things where you look at people watching, why do I have to get off stage now? Yeah. Yeah, so they're all fun for different reasons, Vilnius is always fun because the audiences are just so weird, in a good way.
How would you say they're weird? Like,
they don't answer questions normally.
Yeah.
Like if you have crowd work, right, and you're asking them, like, how long you've been together or whatever else, they just have this, they get chatty, but in a good way, and they just throw you different answers than you would expect. And it really keeps you on your toes, but it's funny. Yeah. Like, I laughed the whole show, because I'm like, why did you just say that? Yeah. Like, I asked a couple, like, how long have you been together? He goes, oh, we've been together for 1 year, and we had sex once. And I'm like,
oh,
didn't ask that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's just funny. It catches you off guard.
Yeah.
So every show's been fun for different reasons.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of you just adjust.
Yeah.
And last night was fun because I just found out it was in Norwegian last night.
Yeah, because in my mind that was just self-said.
Yeah.
Because when we were in Portugal, you did show with English people, myself included.
Yeah.
But I also did show in the Portuguese scene. So I did Portuguese shows where I didn't understand the show because it was in Portuguese.
Yeah.
And then I went up and did English about being in Portugal, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it was just, I didn't think about saying that to you.
No, it was funny. It was such a curveball because before the show, I was like set up and I was talking to the comedians backstage and they were talking Norwegian and English and chit chat. And then I said, so, about like 15 minutes before, I said, so I'm one of the comedians. And I said, so do you perform in English a lot? And he goes, no, never. It's Norwegian. I was like, oh, okay, so like your first time doing it? And then the MC, she goes, no, the whole show's in Norwegian. I was like, and I just thought they were messing with me because I was the new guy.
Yeah.
I was the visitor. I was like, all right, you're screwing me. They're like, no, it's in Norwegian. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, just speak English.
Yeah.
You know, so it was interesting. So usually in English, most cities have English comedy night.
Yeah.
This one's just like comedy night, and we happen to have one guy speaking English.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. It was different, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what I'm watching the whole show. I don't know. They're getting laughs. I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't really read the audience because usually you listen to the MC.
Yeah.
And the MC is like, oh, and you get the energy from the audience from the MC and what they ask, right? Do they like dark humor? Do they like light humor? You know, are they couples? Whatever.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand what she was saying to the audience.
It was Andrea.
Yeah. She was fantastic. They were all great.
Yeah.
From what I could tell.
Yeah.
They got laughs.
Yeah.
But it was so fun. It was just such a curveball. I was like, oh, okay. Norwegian show. All right, and I'll be the English speaker.
Yeah.
And then they said it was a big singles mixer.
Wait, what? Yeah.
They had a singles mixer.
There was a single party there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of know the woman that is hosting those. Or I've been in contact with her about some shows thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Andrea was asking what our relationship statuses were before the show. I
Yeah.
was like, is this a swinger thing? Yeah. So it was fun. Yeah. So that was different too. It's always different. That's why I love it.
Yeah. It was fun because this was self-said in my head. And for you, it was very new. Like when I came to Portugal, I was surprised that it was an English show. I thought I was going to a Portuguese show. Yeah. And then I understood that it was an English night, and I didn't understand. This I feel stupid now, but I didn't understand that there was a Portuguese scene there as well when everyone spoke English. But I was a little naive, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was very weird for me because when I started doing it in English, I didn't understand that there was another scene before. It took me a little a week or something.
You didn't think there was a Portuguese scene?
No, I thought this was a scene. Because in Norway it's pretty new with an English scene. We don't have an English scene even. Yeah. We have an English show at Salt in Norway. Yeah. Which is run by the woman that was supposed to perform today, but she got busy with something else, so she couldn't come. But we have that, and we have some smaller English stages. But these are pretty new, the other stages. Yeah. So when I've been performing the last 23 years, there was a little English guy, not a little English guy, but a little English scene kind of thing where a guy from London had some shows and some Norwegian comedian did it in English. But I don't think there existed a lot of English comedians in Norway, so it's very new.
I wonder why that is, because almost every city I go to, they have like an English scene of some sort. Yeah. Some more than others. But here, everybody speaks English so well. Yeah. Do they just not even worry about English scene? Because they're just like, Norwegian, some speak English. You know what I mean? Or is it? It's weird there's not like a specific scene built up, because most, especially big cities, they have the English comedy scene, and that's where the expats go, and tourists, and then locals as well. Yeah. But here, they're not really concerned about.
No. So the thing is, I don't know why that is, but I know that when growing up, I saw English comedians in our scene, or the Norwegian scene. And that was never a problem because we just spoke it. So when an English comedian come, it was kind of like a little event. Yeah. Like it probably was yesterday. Right. With you and the others. But it was like, there was kind of no need for an English scene because they could just perform in our scene. Yeah. But we probably never thought about that. There's a lot of people that don't speak Norwegian that maybe want their own comedian. So it's pretty relatively new here. Yeah. But it's growing a lot. I think that come back in 2 years, I think that there will be at least 4 or 5 English clubs there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because everybody is fully bilingual, it seems like.
They are.
You know, except I'm sure like the villages or whatever, but yeah, so.
But even there, in the entirety of Norway, people learn English in school.
Yeah.
And understand English.
Yeah. No, so yeah, so there's no reason to have like, oh, we have an English comedy night, unless you're trying to draw in like expats or whatever, but.
Yeah. But the English comedy nights we do have in Oslo, or the Norwegians have in Oslo, they draw a lot of expats, so they are good. But having an English night here, it's like I said that we either need to do English fully, or Norwegian, because you can't do multi. And then we decided on doing multilingual, and we have a little problem selling it because there is some people that maybe not speak English, maybe not speak Norwegian good enough.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, but this is outside the center of Norway, so I think it's we'll see. It will be exciting. But I think that stand-up is evolving very fast. Like our comedy quality, I think has been good for a lot of years. Yeah. But our scene is growing a lot the last like 4 or 5 years.
You mean scene like number of shows? Or just scene like the community and the comedians participating?
Community, all of them.
Yeah.
Community, clubs, the way we do things.
Yeah.
There's no longer one monopoly where they say who's going to be the best comedians.
Right.
There are a lot of different camps now.
Okay.
And they have their own stars that headlines.
Yeah.
And the headliners from those scenes go to the other scenes, and then they're just newcomers. So there's a lot of opinions are on the table now.
But that's good, right?
That's actually really good.
I think competition breeds quality.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that maybe wouldn't get as many chances before get their chance to get a lot of spots if they work. And they're not frozen out. Frozen out is the wrong word, but they're not just taken out by people not being interested in them because they can appeal to different camps.
Right.
Yeah. So that's very exciting. But you and I have kind of something in common because can I, only if you want to answer, can I ask how old you are now?
Yeah. You can ask.
How old are you?
Okay. I just turned 50 this year.
50, okay.
Yeah.
And I am 37, but we both started stand-up at a very young age because you started when you were 15?
16.
16, okay.
Yeah.
I started when I was 13, but I started in Oslo when I was 15.
Okay.
So about the same age.
Yeah.
So how did you start comedy?
I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, hotbed of comedy. Yeah. No, Albuquerque, and I would just stay up late watching comedians on like late night television and stuff. I was always staying up late. I was the class clown, and I always entertained my mom's parties and stuff. And then one day I just said, there was one comedy club in town, and I looked it up and I said, Mom, I want to go to the open mic at the comedy club. And she's like, oh, you can't. All right, because you have to have an adult because they serve alcohol. Yeah. So she was like, so she took me to their thing. And I did my first set. I think maybe I just turned 17. It was October, it was right around my birthday. And killed. It was awesome. Yeah. Like, murdered. I was like, for all 15 people that showed up, it was fantastic. But it was like the bug, right? I got the bug. Yeah. And then a month later on the next open mic, I was really popular in school, playing sports and everything else. So I invited everybody at school. I was like, you have to come to the open mic thing. You got to see me on Kill. And I just was cocky, like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. So I wrote all new jokes, some political humor, impressions. I was like, I'm gonna knock this out of the park. And then all these kids from my high school came, but they wouldn't let them in because they serve alcohol. So they said they can come in during your set, but they have to stand against the back wall. Yeah. And as soon as you're done, they have to leave. I was like, oh yeah, no worries. So they call me up on stage, like everybody filters in, like probably like 50 people or something like that, 60 people were there, packed. And I just ate it. I sucked. Because it was all, and that was like a good lesson, you know. It was like, and ever since then, your first bomb, if you do well, then you bomb second. Yeah. Then you just chase that the rest of your life. You know what I mean? You're like, and you learn too, like, you have to have a voice, you have to have practice, you have to rehearse. You can't just do a joke once and leave it. You know, things like that. So it was good. So I probably did it for like 2 years, and then when I went to college in California, I didn't do stand-up anymore. So I was just doing training theater, acting, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, and but it was no negative experience you had that made you stop? No, it was just a different environment. I was in college, you know, and I was just like, I'm learning Shakespeare, and I'm training on stage, and I did Ibsen. Ooh. Because I was just like, I just want to be an actor. So I was in LA, just want to be an actor and do TV and film and theater and stuff. So I was in my 20s, and some improvisation and everything else. And then, I remember I turned 31. And I was just like, I used to like stand-up. Why have I not been doing stand-up? So I didn't do it all in my 20s, and then I started getting back into it when I was 31.
Okay.
And then it was just like working my way up through the LA scene and Comedy Store and improv and all that kind of stuff. And it's a grind, but it was good.
How did it go from when you were 31 and started doing comedy again? How did you get your first performance and how did that go?
I think it went good. But it took me a while. I wrote some good, I wrote what I thought was a really clever bit. It seemed to go well. But it took me a long time to find my voice because I couldn't use the jokes I'd used when I was 17.
Yeah.
I couldn't be like, wow, drinking, what's that about? Sex is going to be weird when it happens or whatever. You know what I mean? I couldn't do the innocent, naive teenager jokes. Yeah. So it took me a long time to figure out who I was at that point on stage. Yeah. Right? And so and then I just was writing things that were like overly clever and, it went fine, but LA's a whole different scene. And, I was just trying to hustle and get out there as much as I could. Plus, I had a day job. Plus, at that time, I was getting married. And plus, improvisation and going to auditions. And, it's tough. You can't really just focus on stand-up the whole time. And especially when you're in Los Angeles, you can't do 3 sets in a night, 4 sets in a night. Like if you were in New York.
Because I think I know the difference between them. Can you just explain the difference between LA and New York stand-up-wise?
The difference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, for me, it's going to be really general. Yeah. I think New York is very much a community because all the clubs are near each other, everybody knows each other. It's just New York is a very people-person city. Yeah. You end up hanging out with people a lot. And I think there becomes a community. You just have to work your way into that community. So you kind of rise up through different communities. And you could do, because it's such a small city, you could do 2, 3, 4, 5 sets a night. So you could do, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, go to Brooklyn, do a 10-minute, whatever it is. Los Angeles, it's less of a community and more of a clique. Okay. Right? So it's all the different things. And you don't really move up through them, you have to move kind of across. Okay. Do you know what I mean? And if you want to do a gig at the Comedy Store, you have to hang out at the Comedy Store every night. 5, 6, 7 hours, just hang out. And then eventually you get to know people, and then eventually you get 3 minutes in the belly room at 2 a.m. And eventually, do you know what I mean? But you have to put your time in to certain clubs. And I mean, look, they still support. I still have tons of friends. It is supportive. Yeah. But I'm just trying to paint with the broad. And because nothing's near each other, you do one set at this club, then you got to drive 30, 45 minutes to go to another club.
Why are clubs so far away from each other? Is there a reason for it?
I just think it's where they came up. I mean, LA is just a driving city. The mass transit is terrible. It's just very spread out. Yeah. Whereas New York is very centralized. Yeah. So you could go a bunch of different clubs in New York. Where LA, it's like, okay, if you're going to do a show here, to try to get across town to do another show, and so that way you don't have much. You don't really, if you want to do that, then you don't really end up hanging out at the one venue that much. And that kind of takes away the community element of it. You know what I mean? Because you're like, okay, I just did my set, now I gotta get in my car and drive over here instead of hang out here, chit chat, hang out with comedians, talk about jokes, talk about the business. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think so.
So it's very LA seems very individual. Your journey's very individual, where New York, it seems like you're part of a growing community in New York. Okay. And you just see people on the street. Like you'll be walking down the street and you'll see Jeff Ross or Dave Attell or
in New York.
In New York.
Yeah.
Whereas LA, everybody's in cars, right? Yeah. And you're not you don't really see unless you hang out, at one of my favorite places to hang out at the bar at the Improv, because you see a lot of comedians come to the bar. Yeah. But a lot of times they're just coming in because they have to work on their 15-minute set.
This is in LA.
LA. Yeah. And then they bounce. They don't really hang. So it's I guess that's the main difference. Yeah. Is the number of shows you can do in New York, the tighter the community, and you progress faster because you do so much and you have to work hard. Yeah. It's competitive. Whereas LA, it's a little more individualistic. There's less community. It's a little more cliquey. Yeah.
I studied comedy at somewhere in New York called the American Comedy Institute. I've learned that in New York is the place where you build yourself, become a good comedian because there's a lot of opportunities. If you go to LA, first of all, you need a car or a driver's license. Yeah. Because it's not so much buses and subways.
Oh, no, not at all. No.
So you need a car, and also you probably need an agent. It would be good, but it's a place to get deals. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you go there for the business. And a lot of clubs now are run by agents. Oh. So you don't even get booked at the club unless your agent books the club.
So the guy that gets you other gigs also has you in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a comedy agent, right?
Yeah.
And in LA too, the tough thing is, and this may happen in New York, but I don't think it happens like at the Comedy Cellar or any of those big places. You can get bumped. Like I've been on shows at the Comedy Store.
What does the word bumps?
Well, like, so I'll be waiting on a show at the Comedy Store, and then Dave Chappelle will walk in.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, Dave Chappelle said we're gonna bump you till after.
Okay.
Bump and like move
Yeah,
past.
okay.
And then you're like, you don't have a choice. You're just like, okay, I guess Dave Chappelle's gonna do his thing.
Yeah.
And then he talks, and you don't know if it's gonna be 30 minutes or 4 hours.
Yeah.
You know, so that happens quite a bit too sometimes. You know, and that might have changed, but then you know when he's done, and you have to go on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No one cares.
And no one, yeah, right. So that happened quite a bit. I don't know if it happens much anymore. I haven't done really LA in a long time, but that was kind of my experience in like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Was that it was just it was a little more of the business side of it, whereas New York it feels like there's more of the art form of it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Maybe. Yeah.
You know, because like you have to write and you have to work and write and work and impress other people, and you're always up on stage.
Yeah.
LA, it's like no, you do it because you want to get an agent, you want to do this, you want to do that. You know. So it's a little different, I think.
Yeah. Is it typically better paid in LA than in New York? Comedy?
I don't think any of them pay.
No. Okay.
No, they really don't pay that much.
No. Okay.
No, I mean you do the gigs to get the road work, which pays, or to get the special, which pays, or to get the theater show. You know what I mean? So,
marketing, basically.
Yeah, marketing, 100%. So yeah, they don't pay either city. They don't really pay that much on those shows because they don't have to.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna be like, well, I think you should pay me for this, like, we don't need you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd be like, we got 50 other people we can put in your slot. You want us to pay you?
Yeah.
You know, and then you have.
But
people,
it isn't paid at all. Or it's like $20.
Usually not at all.
No. Okay.
Yeah, and it depends on the show. Some shows are different, but yeah, I mean, it's never that much. You know, unless you're headlining a night at like Flappers Comedy Club, and then it's either a door deal or a flat rate or whatever.
Yeah.
Like on the weekends or something. But for the most part, no, you don't want to do it to get money there. You do it to build a career, build your material, build your contacts to get money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You told me that in LA, the people that run the clubs are also agents.
Oh, the ones that a lot of them have booking deals now. So like I think there's a big agency that books the Improv now. Yeah. Main stage at the Improv. Yeah. Not every show, but like the good shows. Yeah. You know, you can still do a Tuesday night if you know who the guy is. You know, but like the good shows, they book their people, and so and around the country too. If you want to go play a club like the Helium Club of an Oxnard, California headline. You can't just email the club. That's booked by this agency. Yeah. So, and you know, and they have like, you know, Bobby Lee and Elijah Such and all these people, you know, so that's why the lineups are so good, but that's the agent saying, yeah, we're putting our clients in the club, we book it. Yeah. You know, does that make sense? Because that was also the thing we had in Norway. We had one agency. Yeah. Big agency, and they also booked the biggest club. Yeah. And if you weren't with them, you weren't doing comedy then. Yeah. So I mean, it kind of makes sense. It sucks. Yeah. But it makes sense. But in LA, you have different agency at least. There's probably 3 maybe. Yeah, but that at least some different. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. But the rosters are full. They're not really looking for a lot of people. They're fine. You do mostly corporate when you're not traveling around the world? Yeah, now mostly there's like corporate shows, private shows, a lot of presenting, a lot of hosting, emceeing for corporate events. Yeah, I don't do the clubs as much. You know, every once in a while, if I'll do something, but not really, unless the opportunity comes at me, but I don't pursue it. Yeah. You know? And that's a fun thing because we had a discussion about corporate. Yeah. You and I, some time ago. And in Norway, corporate is done with, they book you and then I call them or meet them and have a meeting for like an hour or two. Right. Talk about the company, the people that works in the company, and get a lot of material, and then I kind of fire that against them when I come there. But that is not how you do it in LA or in USA. Because, it depends. Okay, because you told me that you could get sued pretty bad if you started doing that. I mean, a lot of companies, the United States is very litigious, right? Like every big company has their law people, right? The lawyers who are like, we don't, and you know, so they don't want to get sued. No. And they can get sued for any little thing.
Yeah.
You know, so you do have to be careful with comedy shows there. And I mean, but it also depends. You know, it depends on the company as well.
Yeah.
Because I've done something where I had to write this like monologue for an awards show, and I had to send them my script.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, here's the 20-minute monologue about your particular industry. Because they just think like, oh, he's a comedian. He could just write about our industry and do 20 minutes of material.
Yeah.
They don't realize like, no, this is comedy is something you work on over time, right? They're just like, oh no, just ready to go with a 20-minute monologue about us. And they're just like, okay. And so not doing this, I wrote it, sent it to them. I get it back with all the extras, send it back. They sent it to 5 other people. They sent it back to me. Basically, they took out all the jokes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're just like, I'm not sure. You know what I mean?
So it looks more like Ibsen at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they err on the side of not wanting to offend anybody.
Yeah.
And then, by the time you get it back, you're like, well, this isn't funny at all, but now I'll just perform. It's what they're paying me for. You know, so you just make it work somehow, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes you just get wrong information. I mean, I did one recently where I did the same thing. Like I send them like, here's a couple ideas, here's a couple questions. What are you looking for? Is it clean? Is it rated R? Do you want roasting? Is it, you know, because it's all different. You know, a show in a church is different than a show in a nightclub, which is different than a show on a cruise ship, which is different than, you know. And so it's like I try to find out like what can I not say for sure? What do you know, things like that. So I'll try to send out some kind of questionnaire if they hire me.
Yeah.
And one I got back recently, and I didn't hear from them at all, like for a month. And I just like was contacted through the event person, like, hey, just wondering, hey, just send it out. Wondering. So I was doing 30 minutes of this thing, didn't know anything about the company, and like the day before, they sent back, and she was like, hey, here's 8 people to make fun of. It's just like their name and their position.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like, that doesn't do anything. Like you can't write, you know, and you get it back the day before. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I could have been working on this for weeks just to like fine tune it and get, you know what I mean? But like the day before, like, I guess I'll just talk about, you know, like with no information, right? And so, I went up on stage and I was like, I opened my little bit, and then, I tried to call it the first person. I was like, where's DJ? And it was like, he's not here. All right, I'm not gonna roast him. You know, like, and then I talked to her before, and she goes, and that's our CEO over there. You can totally go after him. He's cool. And I started to like talk to the CEO, and I think I made some like pretty innocent joke. You know, I was like, oh yeah, your name is Teen. That's like Vietnamese for like a celestial body, right? So you're like the CEO. And he goes, number 1, I'm not Vietnamese. Number 2, it means stars. And I was like, I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. You know? So you get misinformation, you know, but I think I'm always of the mind, just play it safe. You know, because the worst thing is they don't ask you back because you weren't edgy enough. Oh. But if they don't ask you back because you were too edgy, that's just bad. They can like withhold your pay or whatever, you know. Okay. But that's at a certain level. I mean, I did a show with Bill Burr, and he didn't care.
Yeah, of course.
He was just like,
he'll get paid somewhere.
He's fine. He was doing, you know, a 20,000 seat theater the next night. He was like, I'm just going to go up there and be Bill Burr. You hire Bill Burr, I'm giving you Bill Burr. Yeah. And it was fascinating to watch. They hated him. Yeah. They hated him, and I was like, he doesn't care. It's fine. Yeah. You know. But
you cannot care in that position.
Yeah.
We had this would never happen with you guys, because we had a comedian, a friend of mine, that did a show for the military in Norway.
Yeah.
Like a division of the military, and right before the show, they told him that I know I said that you could joke about this and this and this, but you can't anymore. And then he had like almost everything written on those topics. Wow. So he just said, okay, fine. And then he just did it anyway.
Really?
Yeah. And she was, the audience liked it, but she was really pissed. Yeah. So he was called by HR of the military. Yeah. But the only thing they could do was like just tell him that we didn't appreciate it. And he was like, okay, I understand that.
So that's almost worse than not getting paid. You want to be appreciated.
Yeah.
I would rather.
But HR didn't appreciate it. The audience appreciated it.
Yeah. Of course they do. Yeah. But you know, everybody has different things to follow, right? Like the CEO usually can't laugh at stuff, right? Because he doesn't want everybody else. You know, if you say something edgy, You know, and then everybody's like, is the CEO laughing? Can we laugh at that?
It's not quite like that here.
Yeah, and then HR has their own, human resources has their own set of rules.
Yeah.
They just want you to be super safe. But then you have like the sales department that's like, oh yeah, you can say F this and F that if you want to.
Yeah.
And then the event person just wants to keep their job, and they almost never really know, so it's all, you just have to navigate it.
Yeah.
You know? Military, I've done military shows too, and they're really strict about it.
Yeah, in the US.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah.
So you just never know. You try to do your best as a comedian, but I always err on the side of being too safe.
Yeah, but I would do too if I was an American comedian.
That's probably the big difference, right?
Yeah.
Because then that's what I get to do when I do my own show. When I do my own shows, and I come out to Europe, I do like little club shows, and it's like I can let loose. But
But you are pretty clean as a comedian, aren't you? Or the little I've seen of you, you're pretty clean.
Yeah, relatively. Yeah. I don't get edgy.
Yeah.
And
also you're very polite to people, mostly.
Yeah, I like people.
Yeah.
I'm not there to...
On stage, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got that... I can still take the piss out of somebody.
Yeah.
But like, if you do it in that Don Rickles, like, with a little bit of love.
Yeah.
Then I don't want to alienate people.
No.
And I'm not there to make statements. I'm not there to like start a rally. You know what I mean? Like, I just want everybody to laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
And I guess that probably comes with doing so much hosting and emceeing.
Yeah.
And presenting. That's like, hey, we're just having a good time.
That's kind of your only job.
Yeah. So I don't get too edgy, No. I mean, if it's a late show, it's like a little rowdy. Yeah, I might cuss a little more or something like that, but I'm not going to start telling jokes that I wouldn't tell normally. No, I'm not too dark as a comedian.
No, that's my impression too.
Yeah.
I have a question for you because, so I've been to I've been to 4 countries doing comedy now. Norway, of course, England, Portugal, and USA. But you've been to plenty of countries.
Yeah.
So how would you describe, if you were going to stereotype a comedian?
Yeah.
Worldwide, like you've met so many comedians from different cultures and worlds and stuff.
Right.
Not worlds, it's not like parallel universes.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, different cities, different countries. Different
How
cultures.
would you say that? What is the common denominator?
Denominator?
Yeah.
For comedians? There's something. Every comedian has something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And it could be different things. But we all are the outcasts in some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whether it's overtly, right? Whether you're like, that's why Jewish comedians do so well, or like, gay comedians tend to do well because they're the outcasts of it. They have to make jokes to survive a life that might be oppressing them.
Yeah.
And then there's the mental stuff too. Like, every comedian, there's not one comedian I know who's like, everything's great, they're perfectly balanced, life is great, and I just want to go up and tell jokes.
Yeah.
No, we're all messed up in some way or another. That drives us to want to go on stage and tell jokes.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think we're the more messed up a society, and you can go 2 ways. You can tell jokes, or you could become a serial killer. I think that's probably the common denominator.
Being messed up in some
way. Yeah.
And I was just
now you think about like how you're messed up.
Yeah. No, I know. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. See, but I mean, I don't know one comedian who's just like, oh, life is great. I'm the all-American. And then...
But to challenge that, do you know a person that is like that? Like life is all great and.
Well, no. I think everybody's got some issues.
Yeah. So why don't they become comedians if they're so messed up?
Because comedy becomes our therapy.
Yeah.
Comedy becomes how we deal with it.
Yeah.
Other people deal with it in different ways. Alcoholism or buying,
and someone also
boats.
And alcoholism.
And sometimes a lot of alcoholics come into comedy.
Yeah.
I think comedians use comedy to deal with what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't help. Therapy, it's not therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the best therapy you could do. But I think it helps you kind of relieve the pressure a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I think comedians have probably it's weird. I think we have the lowest self-esteem, but the highest self-esteem. Because you have low self-esteem because you want to be liked, you want people to laugh at you, you want people to appreciate your work.
self-value, maybe low self-value but high self-esteem, or I don't know.
Maybe that's what it is. Because we have high self-esteem because it takes an incredible narcissist to go on stage and talk and be like, look at me for an hour and I'm going to present stuff to you. You know, so it's that weird mix of like, yeah, maybe it's low value, high self-esteem, or low self-esteem, high values. Yeah. Or something. Yeah, it's a weird mix. But I just think we're all a little messed up and we choose to do our therapy on stage in front of strangers.
I remember I asked our colleague in Portugal, Miguel, this question, so I'll ask you this question too. Would you give up comedy if it meant you could be happy without, like, be really happy if that's even a thing?
I mean, comedy doesn't make me sad.
No?
Like, no, I do it because I love it.
Yeah, but would you exchange comedy for real happiness? Like, you didn't have to work on it, you're just happy.
You're just constantly happy?
Yeah, you could be happy, you have everything you want, but you could do comedy.
I feel like I'm that way already.
Yeah? Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah.
So I guess the question is, would I stop doing comedy if I didn't have any more worries in the world?
Yeah, if that somehow was the exchange. If you had the genie say, okay, I will give you no worries in the world, you have a perfect life.
But do I still get to perform other things?
You can perform anything.
Can I still do theater or hosting or anything else? Or
no.
I have to have like a real job?
No. You can do some theater, but not hosting.
This is some community theater? Some small stuff? 99 seats, that's it? That's the max?
No Ibsen.
Yeah, no Ibsen. No, I wouldn't give it up. No, I've had chances for other jobs. Yeah. I mean, look, if I wanted that, I could do it. Like, I could become an engineer and I could have a house and kids and cars and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. For sure. All my friends have done it, and I got good enough marks in school, like I was smart and everything else. Yeah. I could have done it, but I didn't want to. No. So I wouldn't give it up. Yeah. You're in your path. Yeah, I'm so much better right now than I'd be so bored. Yeah. And there's a part of me that wishes I was that way, because I like to look at some of my friends who are like kind of living that lifestyle. And there is something to envy about being content. Yeah. You know, like some of my friends are just very content. They kind of got it all nice and sorted. And they still have problems, life problems, but they got all nice and sorted. And sometimes I get a little jealous. I'm like, oh, look at that, you're just doing your thing. But then they look at my life and they're like, that's amazing what you're doing. I'm just like, yeah, you know what, I dig it. So, no, I wouldn't give it up. No, that's funny because that's why I went to Portugal, to just live my life and be happy. Yeah. And you never went to my apartment, but I lived in an apartment by the beach. Yeah. It was so idyllic and perfect. But I never was content. It was like, I also do comedy, of course, but it's like, it's hard to be content. It's right. Just not search that drive. Are you into, do you know DC Comics, Batman, Superman? Yeah. Did you watch the series Arrow? Yeah. Yeah. There's a clip where Arrow and Flash is sitting at the bar. Right. And they're talking about something that their life would be happy without the things that happened to them that made them superheroes. I remember that scene. But I know what you're talking about. Wouldn't be full or something like that. And that's kind of how I feel about comedy, like the toast to a rich and full life. Yeah. Which the superhero thing has given them. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's what I loved Arrow. I'm a huge DC Comics nerd. Yeah. I watched it. In fact, during the pandemic, I watched all the DC shows, Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, in chronological order. Oh. So I've got like different episodes just to get it all right. I've seen them all too, but not that much. Yeah, I was a big old comic book nerd. But I agree. Like the life I'm leading is so fulfilling. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's stressful. It's exhausting, and it's difficult at times. But I mean, I'm doing comedy and. Yeah, who does that? Yeah. So it is really nice to meet you again. We're going to get some food now, and then we're going to rock Skien, the hometown of Ibsen. Yeah. Your entire career has led to this moment. It has. I played Niels Krogstad in the Dollhouse in college. That Dustin Hoffman was watching. Dustin Hoffman. Yeah. Cool. He was watching, and it was a small theater, and he came to the college to watch it. Did you talk to him afterwards? I did a little bit. Yeah. But he was right there, and I remember I came out from my entrance, and I had a big monologue, and I looked over, and I was like, that's Dustin Hoffman right there. And I flubbed line after line after line, and just kind of kept picking it up. I was just sweating. And then the show got better as it went on, and then, someone in the cast knew him and invited him, so I talked to him afterwards. Nice guy. When you say flub, you mean forgotten? Messed up, yeah. Have you ever done that in comedy? Have you had a comedian you really respected and looked up to
come in and suddenly he was there suddenly, and then your set just started?
I don't think so. I think I see a lot of, I think comedians are peers to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've been lucky to perform with a lot of big ones.
Yeah.
A lot of great names, and I never worry, I just go up and do my own thing.
Yeah.
You know, I've always seen them, I'm trying to think like the earliest moment that might have happened. Maybe when I was younger and someone was like in the crowd, I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. You know, but I don't think, it hasn't happened for a while. Like they're just my peers. Like I've opened for, you know, Anthony Jesselnik and
didn't he open for you too?
He opened for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was his first paid gig, I think you said.
He was, yeah. And, you know, I mean, you name it. Taylor Tomlinsson once opened for us too, which is crazy. So I just see him as peers, you know. I've done shows with Bill Burr in the audience and Jim Jeffries in the audience.
But you don't see your, not Gene Hackman, but the actor.
Dustin Hoffman?
You don't see him as your peer?
Well, not when I was in college.
No,
You kidding me? I was studying theater. I was like, what is Dustin Hoffman doing here? That's when I was young and idealistic. Now I'm just like old and polished. And I'm like, I'm just as good as these guys.
Yeah.
When's the last time they rocked Skien?
Yeah, right. They'll never have it.
Let's go get some herring.
Let's get some what?
Herring, isn't? Are we supposed to eat herring here?
What's herring?
No, it's like fish, right?
Okay, there's probably a Norwegian word for it, but I don't know what it is. So we'll just close it off. But it was really nice, and I'm looking forward to having not herring, but some kind of food with you. And then we'll go to the club and you'll meet David.
Yeah.
My partner in crime in Skien. And the other comedians. It will be really fun.
It's good to see you again, man.
It's good to see you again.
Thanks for setting this up. This
Well, welcome to my neighbor town.
I know, this is so great, man. Talk.
Talk.